T-minus 30 seconds.
DeAndre Hopkins! Justin Jefferson, have a day! What a catch! C.D. Lamb! Only this guy, I think. I mean, maybe I'm trying to think of somebody else. And he hurdles his way into the end zone. Touchdown. Oh, he's snared for the interception by Kenny Moore.
2, 1, 0.
I love this league, man. I love this league. But sometimes I hate this league at the same time, you know, especially when you got Buccaneers -7. You got a lot of money down on Buccaneers -7, man. What another great Sunday night football game, guys. Welcome into the final drive. I hope you guys are joining us once again. If not, hope you guys are new to the final drive. If so, maybe I'll be an official YouTuber finally by telling you guys hit the subscribe button. If you guys are watching this, if you guys like what you see, we got a great show today. We got myself. I'm bringing in my buddy Jesse Cornega, first time on the final drive here on the program. And then we also have Kevin Turner showing up today, courtesy of the Dallas Cowboys. So he's going to be breaking down Big D for us. But without further ado, man, let's get into the Sunday night football action. I'm going to bring in my boy from Winnipeg, Manitoba. All my guest co-hosts, for the most part, are from Winnipeg, Manitoba. But let me bring in my boy here, Jesse. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, just finished up Sunday Night Football. Another great Sunday. Week 4 is almost finito. Obviously, save the best for last. Monday Night Football tomorrow. But all in all, great day. Some close finishes, and like every week in the NFL so far this year, just another week to add to the slate and more understanding on what each team is and what they provide and what their actual season outlook really is.
Yeah, man, let's get into this because I mean, well, you said we got Monday Night Football tomorrow. I know that's your boys, the Las Vegas Raiders. You are of the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, man, you are of Las Vegas fandom, man. But yeah, well, we could talk about that another time. I've been talking about Las Vegas actually a lot already on the final drive, but probably not this week too much. But let's start with Sunday Night Football here. This was a game that I don't think anybody really expected to go the way it went. I mean, I just finished talking about how I put down quite a bit of money down on Buccaneers. They were -7 was the spread today. I was very confident in this bet, which is the reason why I put down a lot of money on the Buccaneers today. What did you see out of the Buccaneers, and really more so out of the Patriots? Because this was a game that we were talking about. This was the return, right? This was of Tom Brady. This was the return. You know what I mean? Like, this is probably
they actually dubbed it that on the broadcast, like Sunday Night Football, man. The return. I was like,
I was laughing so much because like at the very beginning, the intro, when they started playing Adele and they were just like, hello. That was like, you know, man, like that's the NFL. It's just, they're just so extra. But anyways, you know, you had the return here. This was more so about Brady coming back to Gillette, but like, this, I think a lot of people just expected this to be a cakewalk. What did you see out of New England? Because like I talked to Alex Barth last week, you know, the Patriots spent $1 gajillion in free agency this past offseason. Seemed to be like they were starting to gel these pieces. What'd you see?
Well, the biggest thing for me tonight was obviously the return. The crowd was just electric, so that's gonna obviously favor the home team. Thought it was cool. They cheered Brady when they did the pregame ensemble, kind of explaining, and then as soon as he walked on the field in the real game, there was just boos everywhere, and that's about as Boston as it gets. I really enjoyed that, but I think the weather today played a big factor in the outcome of the game. Obviously, making a little bit sloppier. Some missed field goals on the Buccaneers' part. Early in that first half, obviously left some points on the board, but all in all, I thought it was a good game from the Patriots. All three phases really showed out. There were some penalties that cost them some position or some scoring opportunities. But when I saw them pull out that double reverse pass with Jacoby Myers, I was like, you know, usually that they I feel like they save that kind of stuff for later in the year in the playoffs, but I think to Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, everyone, Robert Kraft, everyone in that Patriots organization, this was pretty much a playoff game, if not like the Super Bowl to them this year. And we kind of saw that in their play, even though they came up short.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and it's just like leave it up to Josh McDaniels to throw in those wrinkles with all of the. I mean, we've seen it with Tom Brady over the years, over the past 2 decades. They've done it with Julian Edelman, and now you saw Jacoby Myers throw in passes and whatnot. Like you've seen it with these wide receivers who are able to throw the ball down the field, push the ball down the field. They've got more than one quarterback on the field, and sometimes we forget about that, but. And that's exactly what they lull you to sleep, and boom, it's great play calling by Josh McDaniels. A big reason why a lot of people see him as the successor to Bill Belichick when that day does come. But the biggest thing for me, man, like I was pretty high. I was pretty high on Mac Jones coming out of the draft there. I mean, I think a little bit high. I would say a little higher than most people. I think a lot of people, when there's rumors about Mac Jones going to the Niners, there was a lot of Niners fans who were like, yeah, we don't want that guy. We want Trey Lance. You know what I mean? And that's fair. Trey Lance, I think, is going to be, I think we both agree, is going to be a really good NFL player for a long time. But Mac Jones, to me, really solidified himself tonight and really just kind of showed the world, like, I understand it was ugly at times. Don't get me wrong. But this Tampa Bay Buccaneers front seven, as everybody knows, is just so daunting. They are... Well, what did they end up with today? Did they finish the day in negative rushing yards on the day? Do you know? Did they end up getting positive rushing yards? I know that they were -1 for the longest time.
Yeah, I'm not too sure of the final stats. I'll look that up right now. But
yeah,
speaking of up and down for Mac Jones, yeah, it was a little ugly there in the first, but at one point he did complete, I think, 19 passes in a row, which goes to show, one, the effectiveness of the offense, and two, they kind of supplanted the running game with short passes and screens, which is the Patriots offense as a whole this year. I feel it's very risk adverse, very safe, and how they're going about trying to win games is it's all 3 phases, and the offense isn't going to win you a game, but it's definitely trying not to lose you any games, and they're trying to make up for that in special teams and defense, and they almost pulled it off tonight.
Yeah, and that's where I was kind of going with that, was just the fact that Mac Jones, he is so efficient with the ball. He's making good decisions. And then you saw with the stat that they brought up at some point in the game here with like him versus the blitz. Of course, Buccaneers got home on a couple of different blitzes, which is, that's bound to happen. That's fine. But Mac Jones, he hung in tough. Like he's shown his toughness. He's shown his great decision making. He's shown his grit, right? Like at times, and he's shown the ability to be mentally savvy, cerebral at the right times in order to make the right decision, not turn the ball over. I think he had 1 interception on the day, which is fine. Again, we go back to some of these things where it's like he's a young quarterback. It's bound to happen from time to time. He's bound to make a mistake. But I think that Mac Jones as a whole, for me, had a really nice performance today. And also, I mean, on the Buccaneers side of things, I think AB was the best player for the Buccaneers today. I don't know if you would agree, but I just didn't really. Donovan Smith on the left-hand side there, like against Matt Judon, like this was Matt Judon for me. Like this might have been his coming out party for the Patriots. Like he was a game wrecker at times today
for sure. He was all over that tape, all over. I mean, I think there was a pass in the first half where he just came free off the edge, and Tom Brady just threw it away immediately. It was in his face all game, to the point where they had to start bringing in people to chip him.
Yep.
And start paying extra attention to him, which obviously deviates what you want to do on offense when you have someone wrecking the line like that. So huge coming out party for Matthew Judon. Couldn't have been on a bigger stage.
No doubt. I don't know if you have anything else to add to this game. I think overall is like, are you worried about the Bucs at all here after this performance? I think that's the last thing I'll say. Like, is this just a matter of Bill Belichick knowing his quarterback?
I'm sure that played a part, that and just the magnitude of the game. I think it's hard to just come in there and blow out a team when there's all this story behind the coach, the fan base, the crowd, everything like that. I think it's just a very, very tough environment to play, and to come out of there with a win on the road and in that environment is a win. But in terms of my concern for the Buccaneers, it's all in that secondary. I mean, even towards the end of that game, there was more corners that were going out injured, and who knows the length or the significance of those injuries as of right now. But man, that secondary has been decimated, and we all know it's a passing league. So it's going to going to be tough to see how they come back from that. Obviously, they signed Richard Sherman. He's starting. I think they signed him on Wednesday, and he's starting
last night. Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. So it's going to be interesting to see what goes on with that secondary, if they bring in any more players when people are going to come back from injury. That's my biggest concern. I think this offense will always be able to put up points and be efficient. You got Tom Brady, you got weapons around him. That front seven of the defense are going to be able to get pressure and stop the run like they did tonight. So it's really going to come down to what that back end is capable of and who's out there playing for him.
Yeah, and one last note I'll make on this game too for me was Joe Tryon. Like, this is a guy that I can't shut up about. I haven't been able to shut up about him since he got drafted. I had him. I know a lot of people had him going in the second round, maybe late first. He started creeping up into it, but this is a guy, just a high motor guy. Like, if you are looking for a guy on the Buccaneers, like Jason Pierre-Paul, I think is entering the last year of his contract this year. So I don't know if he's just with his age and maybe injury concern, yada yada yada. I don't know if he is going to be in a Buccaneers uniform this time next year. And if he isn't, the Buccaneers, they had that luxury pick at the back of the first round in this year's draft. We all know that this was a team that was bringing back all 22 starters. So realistically, like on paper, the Buccaneers didn't have any needs to like actually address with a first round pick this year. But so this was a luxury pick, which is why, maybe some people had them taking a running back or what have you. But Joe Tryon was the pick, and Joe Tryon was a phenomenal pick. Like, this was a guy who, again, I think he's going to be the successor. I think you're just going to see him and Shaq Barrett, on the ends for quite some time now for the Buccaneers. But that's a name. If you're watching this and you're, maybe looking for a name, he showed up on film today a couple times. But Joe Tryon, high motor guy, man, he's going to be wreaking havoc for quite some time. Let's go to this. We got a couple more minutes here before we're going to bring in Kevin. But let's go on to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles game. Casual 5-touchdown game for Patrick Mahomes. Casual, I think 2 touchdowns. And how much did Tyreek Hill go for today? 100 and
yes, we had 11 receptions, 186 yards on the through the air, and 3 touchdowns. He touched Pater.
3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns. Okay.
Game. Great impact on your fantasy team if you had him, obviously. But just asserting his dominance, and I can't recall a player of his height and stature dominating for so many seasons at this level. Truly amazing.
Yeah, I remember last week we were kind of talking about the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit and whether or not we were concerned at all about the Chiefs or whatever. And like, there was some people, I think Alex said that he expected Alex Barth, the Patriots guy, he had said that he was pretty convinced that the Patriots are going to regress this season. And by regress, it maybe doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to make the playoffs, but just it's really tough to obviously go to 3 straight Super Bowls. We all know that's tough to go to 2 straight Super Bowls, one Super Bowl. So the Kansas City Chiefs, I think we understand that the odds of them making to the 3 straight Super Bowls aren't great. But at the same time, I mean, the Chiefs for me, like the biggest concern for me, and maybe this is something we can talk about further, is just the defenses around the league. That for me is their biggest, that's my biggest concern for the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's even for a team like, I mean, the Bills have played a couple of iffy teams over the past couple of weeks. They've been kind of just dominating everybody. But I'm trying to think of another team. Well, I mean, Dallas is another team as well. Dallas, their defense is really on the come up now. But there's a few teams here with really good offenses, but your biggest concern really is with the defense. Even the Buccaneers, you could put them in that category possibly. Right now with how bad their secondary is right now, like a team who can put up points, but are they going to be in track meets all year? Is that what the recipe to success is going to be? Is Tom Brady throwing the ball 50 times a game or whatever? I know he'll do it, but that's probably not the recipe that you want here. Do you have, is any concerns residing for you around the Chiefs? Did you ever have any concerns? I know they're in your division, being a Las Vegas Raiders fan. What was your thoughts on Kansas City entering this game and now after the game?
Well, coming into the game, I thought this was a must win for them, and also not a very difficult win. I expected them to win this game, and they did. It was a little bit concerning there for them at the beginning of the game, but obviously explosive offense, they can put up points. But looking at this Kansas City Chiefs team, I think there's a couple things I take note of in light of when the Raiders are going to play them, and just for their season in general. Is one, obviously invested a lot in the offensive line, but it is still an entirely new offensive line, and they're still going to have to gel. And for me, I think people kind of just assume that they were going to be one of the top units, and it's going to take some time. And we're kind of seeing that. But the biggest issue with this team isn't on the offensive side of the ball. It is that defense. And even in years past, they haven't been at the top of the league, but they've done enough and gotten some timely turnovers. They're kind of playing with house money when you have an explosive offense on the other side of the ball. So Steve Spagnuolo likes to send some exotic blitzes to try and force some turnovers. And this year, I really think the biggest issue for them is one, being able to stop the run versus teams that are going to want to control the clock, which wasn't really today's case in the case of the Eagles. And Daniel Sorensen, man, that guy's been getting picked on. That guy, one, can't cover Darren Waller. Dallas Goedert had a day today. But, everyone, you got Chris Jones, you got Tyrann Mathieu. You'd be hard-pressed to name any other starters on the defensive side of the Kansas City Chiefs. And when you watch them, like today, 460 yards allowed, 30 points allowed against an Eagles offense who's been good but not great, and
sputtering.
Made Jalen Hurts look like a possible MVP out there today. If of course the quarterback on the other sidelines wasn't there, the real MVP performance. But a lot of questions on that defense, and I haven't seen improvement from them week after week, so that's the biggest concern.
That's fair enough, man. I like that assessment. Well, Jesse, we have our guest here, Mr. Kevin Turner here of 97.1 The Eagle in Dallas, Texas. So I'm going to bring him in right now.
Eagle.
From Big D, man. Kevin Turner, what's going on, Kev? How you doing, baby?
Oh, I'm excellent. Thanks for having me, guys. Hope you're doing well. That Sunday night game was pretty nuts, and all the late games kind of sucked today. But the noon games were hot and spicy. So, yeah.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Put down off this 12 hours of being on the couch.
Well, how about 12 hours of being on the couch. I'm in the couch still. That's okay. We're still talking football. That's okay. But, man, let's get into the Dallas Cowboys. Actually, one other thing. I know you probably heard us talking about the Chiefs there and whatnot. What's your guys' thoughts on this? Maybe, Kevin, I'll start with you even. Like, I heard Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on the Packers broadcast today. They're talking about the fact that the different variables in the NFL season now with a 17-game season, A, and B, with 7 teams as of last year making the playoffs now. Do you guys think that it's as we should hit the panic button as quickly as we have once in the past? Like in terms of teams starting off 0-2, teams starting off 0-3 even. Now these teams you see at 1-3, like you would think more room for error now with the extra game and with the extra playoff spot. What are your guys' thoughts on when we should be hitting the panic button on some of these teams with the records that they're at? Kevin, you go first on that.
Well, I think some of it depends on what division you're in, because there are certain divisions where you already can tell you who the winner is right now, like the NFC East. I can tell you that the Cowboys are going to win that division, unless what happened to Dak, happens again, and hopefully it doesn't. But like if you're in the NFC West, and you got Seattle trying to figure things out, and generally they do. With San Francisco, I'm personally a Trey Lance fan, and they kind of made that move today. And Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his calf or whatever, but it feels like that might be the end. They've got they can't really waste time trying to figure out if Jimmy Garoppolo can play or not. Like they need to let Trey Lance get in there and start to figure things out. So I think part of it does really matter what division you're in. And I know it's just you get guaranteed the spot if you win the division, but like I think there are certain teams who have a way of kind of piecing it together and finding a way to figure that out. Like if I'm like New Orleans, I think we'll find a way to kind of figure it out. Now, if they've got enough talent to make it, I don't know if they've got enough offensive weapons with Michael Thomas being out. But there are certain teams that, really do need to like clean house right now and start really picking up games. But there are definitely some teams who are going to be fine if they're. I mean, if people forget, like the Buccaneers were like 7-5 last year before they won 9 in a row to go win the Super Bowl. Like they were still a team figuring things out. And people were asking the question up into November, people were asking the question, is Tom Brady's arm dead? Like that was a thing that was going around. So I think there are certain teams who don't really have to panic until we get till a little closer to Thanksgiving.
That's fair. Jesse, what are your thoughts on the whole 1-3 here before we start asking Kev about the Cowboys?
The whole 1-3. I think it
or
really
just record as a whole, right? 1-3, 0-2, whatever. Like hitting the panic button with these new
3-0 against 3 teams with 10+ wins from last season. Another situation. Yeah, I really think it just depends on how your schedule is set up. Have you played any division games? Have you played opponents from your conference? So if you're sitting at 0-2 and one of those games is against out of conference opponent and an out of division opponent, I mean, you're not, or 0-3, I should say, you're not sitting in the worst position. But if you pile up a lot of conference or most importantly division losses, you're 0-3 and 2 of those are in the division. Then you're really setting yourself back. But I really think it depends on less upon the record and who you've played to get that record and how that really affects you going forward.
That's fair. I like that assessment. Kevin, let's get into the Cowboys here, man. We got some questions that I've piled up here, and Jesse is, I'm sure he's compiled a couple as well. Let's talk about the game today. Let's start there. Panthers came out quite nicely today, especially Sam Darnold. He was using his legs. You saw Dak using his legs as well. But Panthers were moving the ball down the field, and then the Cowboys defense really stepped up, as we've really started to see more and more this season. What did you start to see like the Cowboys do better as the game progressed here? Because there was a point in time in which, the Panthers, I think they put up 14 points, and then it was like almost 2 quarters or something like that, or a quarter and a half, where like the Panthers went blank. Cowboys were just shutting them down. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, I think the Cowboys are a team that's generally going to come throw the ball 40 times a game, and they're going to beat you through the air. And today was the first time in really a couple years that they fully dominated a team on the ground. And the Panthers coming into the game, and granted they played the Jets and the Texans and then the Saints, but they'd been giving up 45 yards rushing per game. And the Cowboys averaged 7 yards a carry. Zeke had 140 yards and looked good. I know there's a lot of Cowboys fans, myself included, who thinks he should be splitting time completely with Tony Pollard, who's a little more explosive, but both good players and both work off each other very well. So that's one thing that I was starting to go, okay, is this offensive line kind of starting to get used to playing together and things like that? Kellen Moore is calling plays at a very high level. And really, he's gotten better since he's taken over as the play caller. But he is finding a groove that's meshing at the same time as Dak Prescott is taking over. And like Dak, I've always been a Dak fan from the beginning here. But Dak has now proven that he is way more than what anyone ever thought he was in 2016, 2017, 2018. He is now literally a guy who you can count on to go make adjustments, get you out of bad plays at the line of scrimmage. And that is everything when it comes to playing quarterback at a high level. I mean, and that's full trust. Like if you have, I don't know if you guys play fantasy football or anything. If you have Cowboys on your fantasy team, it's got to be so maddening, because today their biggest wide receiver was Dalton Schultz, the tight end. And then, it's Blake Jarwin, the tight end. He had a touchdown. And Amari Cooper only had 3 catches, and you just never know how they're going to attack you. They can attack you in so many different ways. Today, offensively, they were able to run the ball, and Dak only had to throw it 22 times. So, it's not how they're generally going to win games, but and still defensively, they're still a team that's going to give up 350 yards, but they're getting turnovers. Trayvon Diggs is maybe their best cornerback since Deion Sanders. And I know it's early to say that, but this is a thing that's happening. 5 interceptions through 4 games, all around the ball, all the time, takes risks at the proper times, and he just changes the game. I mean, Sam Darnold, I thought, played decent today. I think he looked okay, for Sam Darnold, right? And Trayvon Diggs just shut the game down in the second half with 2 interceptions on back-to-back drives.
Jesse, I'll let you go ahead if you got a question for Kevin. We're already starting off with the best corner since Deion Sanders. Jeez,
crazy, right? Yeah.
That's great.
Well, we got a question from the chat actually for you.
Yeah.
Do you think Tony Pollard is a good enough pass blocker to actually fully split time with Zeke in the backfield from what you've seen so far?
He's not, and Tony's going to struggle in that regard, and he can make up for it with, how he can be used as a wide receiver at times, although they haven't done that much. I would like to see them use a 2 running back set a little more often, but they've got so many options. They could be packaging that until December. Like, hey, we'll work that in later. Like, we can run a 2 tight end set right now that's very effective with Michael Gallup out. One thing that I do like how they've utilized Tony Pollard. I don't know if this was planned or not, but it was the first carry after both of Trayvon Diggs' interceptions was to Tony Pollard, who, as I mentioned earlier, is a little more explosive. Zeke's more the put his head down, a battering ram style. Tony Pollard got a carry right after both of those Trayvon Diggs interceptions that went for about 10 to 15 yards. And it's just such a backbreaker when an interception happens, defense runs on the field, and then they just give up 15 yards on the ground very quickly to Tony Pollard. So I'm so impressed with Kellen Moore. There was a play at the end of the game as the game had gotten close, and Trayvon Diggs left the game with what they said after the game was back tightness. And the Panthers threw it all over the Cowboys, which teams can do that a little bit if you just don't throw it at Trayvon Diggs. It's like complaining about sleep. Like, I don't sleep 8 hours a night. Well, maybe don't have coffee at 10 p.m. and you'll sleep good. Don't throw it to his side of the field.
Sure.
Sam Darnold, throw it over there. But one thing I thought was interesting, it was 4th and 1. And over the years, Cowboys fans might get frustrated with the handoff up the middle, like bring everyone in, handoff up the middle. Well, they ran a play where they handed off to Zeke, and then Zeke pitched it out to Tony Pollard on an option. So Zeke pitches to Pollard on a 4th and 1 to seal the win. Like, that's just Kellen Moore doing some genius stuff. So, like, the Cowboys are really good in spite of their terrible head coach. So, they're good. And when you get to play the Giants twice and this bad Washington team twice and the Eagles, who you guys were just talking, you get to play them twice. They're a team who doesn't have to panic at all. They got an easy schedule.
Yeah, cakewalk of a division. You got a tough game on Thanksgiving, albeit, but outside of that, it looks pretty easy for you guys. I'll agree. Yeah, no, Kellen Moore is definitely in his bag. It's nice to see the continuity. Even from last season prior to Dak Prescott's injury, I kind of assumed that offense would pick up at the same pace. They got weapons everywhere, a lot of money spent, obviously, receiver, running back, quarterback, offensive line. But the biggest surprise to me so far is what Dan Quinn and that defense has been able to do. Trayvon Diggs, like you mentioned, doesn't really matter in today's NFL if you give up a lot of yards. It's about generating turnovers and scoring extra scoring opportunities for that offense. And Trayvon Diggs' brother, Stephon, it's not really a surprise that he's such a ball hawk. Like you said, he attacks the ball like a receiver. He knows when to make the right decision to attack the ball. And I think that's very, very big for the cornerback position. And outside of Trayvon Diggs, the versatility of Micah Parsons, like I remember on the broadcast, they were saying the last 2 games we've seen him line up on the end as a pass rusher. He didn't do that very much, if at all, today. He was in that off-ball linebacker role, and to have a chess piece like that to be able to move around and have the offensive coordinator, game planning for one thing, and then all of a sudden he's not even on the line. He's backing up in coverage or blitzing off the edge. So what really surprised me today was how they were able to put the clamps on the Panthers in that third quarter. And honestly, the Cowboys didn't really move the ball too effectively in terms of like how I think moving the ball, like, ball control, steady ball control offense. I think they were only 3 for 9 on third downs today, but they were able to generate explosive plays, big runs, and big pass plays at the perfect opportunities. And that third quarter, that barrage in the third quarter that essentially put the game away in what felt like it was 10 minutes, it solidified that for me. That out and up to Amari Cooper, former Raider, that was beautiful, that play call, and just big runs by both Pollard and Zeke. It was a spectacle they put on today at AT&T.
It was a little unusual for their offense to play that way. And that's maybe how their 2014, maybe 2016 style teams who are pretty good squads would have won games. They're usually trying to sustain drives and things like that and control the ball. And that's not really how they did. Now, I'm glad you brought the defense stuff, though, because so full disclosure, even though I cover the Cowboys, I'm a Packers fan. So one thing that they've done a lot is if you watch, very nice. You've seen like how they use Zadarius Smith when he's healthy. Zadarius Smith sometimes is playing right over the center. Today, even though Micah Parsons was getting snaps at linebacker, which I prefer because that keeps Jalen Smith off the field, because anytime Jalen Smith's on the field, that's your target. You're going at him, right? But man, Micah Parsons is lined up over the center today. And it's just such a change from the last 5, 6, 7, really the last decade of Cowboys football, where it is, okay, here's the thing. You are the defensive end, DeMarcus Lawrence, and I want you to rush the passer on third down from the left side. Okay, well, it's so easy to game plan. Now Micah Parsons might play defensive end. He might play in the middle. He might play in the middle of the field, but they're standing up. They're doing 3 down linemen, sometimes they're 4 down linemen, 5 down linemen. They're mixing things up. And more than that, they've gone from flying around when last year they're just kind of farting around. I mean, and it helps. Like you add talent. Like Micah Parsons can change a whole defense. You know, when they drafted CeeDee Lamb in 2020, Trevon Diggs was their next pick. Like he was the next guy on their board. They loved Trevon Diggs, and somehow Trevon Diggs fell to 51. Now, I don't know if they thought Trevon Diggs was going to be this good this fast. And I guess maybe you just assume that quarterbacks will stop throwing at him when Anthony Brown is the other cornerback, who's been playing better. Anthony Brown's been playing better, but he hadn't been picked on as much. Like he was picked on opening night. Tom Brady picked on him on opening night, and now no one's really doing it. They're throwing at Trevon Diggs. Like, stop throwing at him. But they're going to give up yards, the turnovers, as you said. And the turnovers, you can't count on getting 3 turnovers a game. Like, that's not going to happen. But the Cowboys can score with anyone. And if the Cowboys wanted to today, they could have put that game away. It was 36-14 at one point, and it was put in backup cornerbacks. Like, they used the whole Trevon Diggs had back tightness. I think they just wanted to get another cornerback some playing time and let him just not get hurt. Like, I truly think that's what happened. So look, this is a good team. It's a good team. I have mega questions because as I mentioned, I'm a Packers fan, so I've seen the 15-year head coaching career of Mike McCarthy. I know how maddening he can be at times. This team is going to win games in spite of their head coach, but they've got Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn, who are head coach type, worthy type of dudes as their OC and DC, and that is making a difference in the week leading up to these games in preparation.
Well, Kevin, here, let me ask you some quick fire questions. And on that note, Dan Quinn, how long until he's a head coach again?
2023. Yeah, no. He won't be a head coach again. No. He had a shot. He's the 28-3 Super Bowl guy. Like, you don't recover from that.
Yeah. You just wear that for the rest of your career, eh?
DC for life. Yeah.
That's so tough. Okay, Cowboys make the playoffs if
Dak doesn't break his leg again.
So you think that the Cowboys well, you said I guess they're winning their division. So the
division's garbage. I mean, they're garbage. They got the Giants next week. I mean, they're let's see. Here's how they close out the season, guys. Their final 5 games. At Washington. I don't know if you guys have seen enough Heineke to know that he's no good, right? You guys all are on board there? Like, I'm
actually a fan of Taylor Heineke. Like, he's a gamer, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's some elite quarterback, but he's just he's fun to watch, in my opinion.
He threw a Hail Mary pass today, and it was amazing. He threw a pass falling down, and he just threw it up in the air, and McLaurin went and saved the day. Heineke cracks me up. Him and Fitzpatrick, I watched those guys play, and I'm like, how is this happening? We can't get real quarterbacks. At the Giants, Washington, Arizona, at Philly. We saw Jalen Hurts last week. I mean, Jalen Hurts, he just misses too many throws. And he was decent today. And the Chiefs are going to make some quarterbacks look pretty good, but he will miss so many throws, and you're just like, you can't miss the throws. That's why Jimmy Garoppolo can't play in San Francisco anymore. You're missing throws, dude. We're not missing throws. Not if you're going to be good in the NFL, you're not missing throws. Or at that volume, I guess I should say. So.
Jesse, do you have any other questions? Because I do have one more for Kevin before we let him go here.
Yeah, the only real head scratcher for me was when the Cowboys scored. I think they made it either 13-7 or 14-13. They went for 2 points there. I didn't really understand the idea behind that, going for that 2-point conversion. Was that just aggression? Was there something that they saw? Or is do I not watch enough Cowboys? Do they do this more often than I know?
No, we're predicting what the Cowboys are going to do in a game. Well, predicting what Mike McCarthy is going to do in a game is just impossible. But I didn't have a problem with what they did there because they scored and then they got there's offsides on the Panthers. So half the distance. So you take it to the 1. So it's like, you know what? We'll run a play now. Screw it. So I actually kind of like it, but I'm also go for 2 every time guy. I'm go for 2. I'm go for it on 4th and 3 unless if I have a good offense and my offense is better than the defense. You know, my big takeaway from the Cowboys-Panthers game today was I don't know I don't know that anyone was taking the Panthers seriously, but they're going to have to go beat a good team before I start looking at their record and paying much attention to them. I mean, they were 3-0 coming in and got a little, people were talking about them and their defense was getting all the Cowboys just smashed them in the face all game long. On the ground, in the air, the Cowboys got anything they wanted. Now, they were able to blitz a little bit, but they blitz more than any team in the league that Carolina does. So they were able to get a little pressure on Dak, but not – you start trying to blitz Dak, he's going to pick you apart. And so will the other 5, 6, 7, best quarterbacks in the league. So that's kind of my big takeaway. Cowboys are good. I know that. And I'm not a homer because I'm a Packers fan. And the Panthers are probably that, 8, 9, 7, and 10 type.
Yeah.
Not really.
Kevin, are you still okay to go a little bit over time?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here I want to go a little bit. I want to fast forward and ask you to make some sort of a prediction for next off season.
Okay.
And that prediction being, so we have the Cowboys who we're going to see. We're going to see a lot more of what we saw this past off season because the residual effects of COVID and the loss of revenue and stuff like that. Teams are still going to be strapped for cash, obviously, and battling the cap. And the Cowboys are no different this year. So you have guys like Amari Cooper, who has an out in his contract, Jalen Smith, who has an out in his contract, DeMarcus Lawrence even can get out of his contract, Tyron Smith. And then you also have to, pay guys like eventually Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, Tony Pollard, maybe Michael Gallup is hitting the free agency market, Leighton Vander Esch, possibly. Who do you think out of those 4 guys that I mentioned, Cooper, Smith, Lawrence, Tyron Smith, if any of them, do you think that they're playing their last season in a Cowboys uniform?
Jalen's gone. There's no use for Jalen. He's not fast. He's not fast enough. And it's not his fault. He hurt his knee in college, all that stuff. But it's just not working out. So and then they can use him a little as a first down, stop the run type linebacker. But if he's ever in coverage, he will get manhandled. So he's gone unless he wants to take a pay cut and stay. And he's pretty savvy, so he does understand the value of if you play for the Cowboys, you can do the whole branding thing. He does know that. I think Vander Esch is probably gone, but with this Micah Parsons moving to playing some defensive end, it gives them some options. The DeMarcus Lawrence thing, I don't think it's some long-term thing. It's just an injury in camp. It happens. So I don't think they're going to get rid of DeMarcus. DeMarcus has a super leadership qualities as well in the defensive locker room that matter. And quite frankly, once he's back, he's their best run player. And I would say he's their best pass rusher, but Randy Gregory is really, really strong. And I think one of the things during talk radio that's been talked about is, you could opt out of Amari Cooper's contract and sign Michael Gallup. I love Michael Gallup, and I think he is such a good wide receiver 3. And in a pinch, if someone gets hurt, he's a great wide receiver 2. But I'm not some believer that he's Chris Godwin, Yeah. So, and Amari Cooper does so many things that help Dak from getting separation, drawing attention from defenses in a way that Michael Gallup doesn't. And I think unless Amari Cooper's injury prone, but he plays through it most of the time. So unless there's some big Amari Cooper injury, I think he's back, and I think DeMarcus Lawrence is back, and I think Michael Gallup will have to walk in free agency. Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see. And you already touched on the fact about Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. We'll see where that comes. I know Zeke doesn't necessarily have an out this offseason, but, I'm thinking that maybe even next season is going to be Zeke's last season in a Cowboys uniform, and we'll see where Tony Pollard's at that point. Kevin, we're going to do some contenders and pretenders. I don't know if you want to stick around for that, but
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, man. Let's fire this up. We only got 5 minutes left in the show here, Jesse. Let's do contenders, pretenders, boys, and let's fire through this. Okay, so Jesse, I'll ask you first here. Seattle Seahawks, contenders or pretenders? And when maybe I should preface this. Okay, when I say contenders, I don't mean win the Super Bowl. When I say contenders, I mean as in, is this a team that is going to make the playoffs and could possibly be a threat to not be a one and done in the playoffs. As in that, like, walk that kind of line. I think you guys understand what I mean. Jesse, what Seattle Seahawks, contenders or pretenders?
Man, if there's a team that walks that line right in the middle, it's probably the Seattle Seahawks from what I've seen from them through 4 weeks. But I'm gonna lean on the side of pretenders. I have faith in Russell Wilson. I have faith in that offense. I just don't think all three phases for that team are gelling for them this year in a way that is gonna bring them any real success down the road.
Okay, Kevin.
It feels so 6 or 7 seed. So I will say contenders for the playoff spot. But I think in that division, it's so tough because every team in that division is going to beat up on each other. But I'll trust Russell enough to give them the 7 seed. So, what am I going to say? Am I going to give it to Minnesota or someone? No, Kirk Cousins. Come on, get out of here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go pretenders actually myself. I actually have Seattle finished. I've had them finishing last in this division to start the year, and I'm sticking by that. I still think they're finishing last in this division, even though they did beat the Niners today. We'll see where Jimmy G is at with that injury. But okay, speaking of Jimmy G, San Francisco, pretenders or contenders, Jesse?
Man, it's hard with your quarterback question up in the air. To put a nail in it, but I have confidence in Kyle Shanahan. I have confidence in the biggest thing in that defensive line and front seven. So I'm gonna say they're contenders.
Does last place in that division make the playoffs? Because I think 4 teams could make the playoffs in that division. That's how little I think about.
I guess that's possible. Yeah, I guess that is possible. I'm just trying to think. Okay, I guess it could.
I'm just saying, no one's on the Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit wagon, right? Everyone's good there. Everyone's done with the Giants, Washington, and Philadelphia. We can put them in the garbage. So. Then we're talking about New Orleans and maybe Carolina, right?
Yeah.
That's all. I think all 4 teams in the West make it.
I don't hate that, actually. Now that I think about it. Yeah, I mean, I had Seattle missing. Yeah, I have Seattle finishing last. I don't know if that makes – that's interesting. That's something to consider, actually. I'm gonna say San Francisco is a contender myself. I think they do make the playoffs for sure. I don't think they finish last in that division. Let's go to Dallas Cowboys. I mean, Kevin, I think I know your answer. You already have them as contenders. Jesse, what about you?
Pains me to say it, but from what I've seen today, even week 1 on Thursday against the reigning Super Bowl champs, they've been checking off a lot of boxes for me on both sides of the ball. I'm going to say they're contenders.
I'm going to agree with you guys on that. I think Dallas are contenders. This team's and I mean, they've even shown that this is they can switch up the recipe now. I mean, a little bit, you said, Kevin. I mean, we haven't really seen this team. I can't remember the last time I've seen Dak Prescott throw under 25 passes and this team put up 30 plus points and in a win. So I mean, Dak Prescott, they can win multiple ways, at least. Showed today, at least. Carolina Panthers, contenders, pretenders, Jesse?
That's a tough one. I was confident in this team. I was confident in their defense. Sam Darnold surprised me through the first 3 weeks. Even today, I thought he played well in the first half. But the injury to J.C. Horn and then that secondary trading for C.J. Henderson, that's what's going to lead me on the side of pretenders.
Okay.
Yeah, not enough dogs in the secondary. The offensive line needs a little bit of work too. And they really miss McCaffrey. I know they'll get him back soon, but they really did miss that. Just tough guy to cover. Just not yet. Maybe next year.
I'll put them on pretenders as well. Tennessee Titans. This is a team I'm deeply been concerned about since week 1. I think I'm marking them as pretenders. Kevin, what do you think? Tennessee.
Tannehill looks like his arm died. And I get it that A.J. Brown and Julio weren't there today. And you're throwing to Chester Rogers and Jalen Reynolds. I understand. But no, I've got some issues with them as well. I'm going to say pretenders.
Yeah, I think defense last year was the biggest question. They'd made some offseason moves to try and upgrade it. I don't think they went far enough in the offseason to upgrade the defense, and they also lost their offensive coordinator, so that offensive continuity isn't there going into the season, and for that reason, I think they're pretenders. And I mean, you got Randy Bullock back there who has to kick a game-winning field goal.
That lost my
which calf did you hurt?
Ow!
That lost my teaser, man. That was my that one was the nail. That was the bullet for me. Let's go. I got two more here. Las Vegas Raiders, contenders or pretenders? Kevin.
I'm going to let them decide that tomorrow night. If they win tomorrow night, they're contenders. If not, they're pretenders. No one's used the Chargers gauge before. That's the first time.
No doubt. Jesse, I think I know which side you lean on this, the being a Raiders fan, but I'd ask you not to be biased.
Let me at least back up my point. I mean, 1, 2, 3 wins versus teams from last year with 10-plus wins. First time in the history of the league. Obviously, 2 overtime games. They proved that they can win close games, prove that they can go on the road on a short week and win. And like he said, tomorrow is another big test, but I think from what I've seen from Las Vegas Raiders this year, there's a vibe and spirit in that building and that organization and that team. And for that reason, they're contenders.
I'm going to say contenders as well for the Las Vegas Raiders. I have a bet on them over 7.5 wins, and I think that they are going to make it to the playoffs. And I'm feeling pretty confident.
What a disrespectful line.
That was. And actually, you want to know what? Quick side note, it actually dropped to 6.5 by Vegas. Vegas dropped it to 6.5 right before the season started. Yeah. So I was tempted to just throw the rest of my bank account on that, to be honest with you. But anyways, that's a side note. Last one here. Baltimore Ravens. Pretenders or contenders? Contenders.
Yes. Trust in Lamar. I always trust
with conviction.
In Lamar.
Okay. Jesse.
Yeah, I like what I see from them. They're a well-coached team, another team, 3 phases of the football. And come December, when running's the most important, I think they're going to have more continuity in that backfield in terms of running backs. And you have Lamar Jackson. So for those reasons, I think they're contenders.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean on the side of pretenders for me. I just I'm not loving that. That AFC North was a division I was really high on coming into this year. I had Ravens and Steelers.
Three teams at 3-1 going into week 5 right now.
Yeah, I was going to put the Bengals on this, but I just didn't want to waste any of our times. I didn't think that was really worth mentioning whether or not they were contenders or pretenders, to be honest.
Big Ben, though, can we just retire? Get him out of the league. That dude's washed. He's cooked.
Yeah.
Rip the Band-Aid off now.
Yeah, he's not looking great. Kevin, man, thank you very much for your time. You have been very insightful, and man, I hope we can have you on again next season, man, because this has been a ton of fun.
Oh, thanks for having me anytime. Sorry if I ramble sometimes. I just get excited because I like football.
Hey, man, that's same here. Man. And it's also better. It's also better than the alternative. I'd rather you ramble than not say 2 words. So thank you from Nolan as well in the chat here. Thank you, Kevin, for your time. Anyways, Kevin, man, I'll talk to you later, man, and enjoy the rest of the season.
Rock on, guys. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go, man. Man, Kevin was awesome, man. That was a lot of fun. Jesse, to wrap up this week 4 edition, do you have any closing thoughts here? You want to know what? Actually, what I forgot to ask Kevin was for a bold prediction and a Super Bowl matchup prediction. Do you have a bold prediction for the rest of the season? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Thanksgiving Day rematch, Raiders Cowboys. Be a home game at SoFi for the Super Bowl. That'd be beautiful. LA stand up. Great halftime performance. That's not a bold prediction. That's a safe prediction. Eminem, Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige. That's huge. But before we go here, I want to know your take on the Broncos. Are they contenders or pretenders?
Yeah, those are pretenders. Yeah, unfortunately, you want to know what? Especially with Teddy Bridgewater hurt, right? I think Teddy B is if he's hurt, Drew Lock, as high as I've been on Drew Lock in the past, Broncos, their defense is one thing. Their defense is legit. Broncos defense is absolutely legit because that game could have got way out of hand today against the Ravens and whatnot, but they kept them in it. Their offense is just nothing without Teddy. I think they've shown him that. So I'm going to say the Broncos are very much heavy pretenders, man. I think that we're going to see that 3-win buffer evaporate very quickly if Teddy B is not under center.
Most definitely. I thought they beat up on some pretty porous competition the first 3 weeks and didn't show much in the first game at home versus some good competition. Couple things before we go. Tom Brady record, little review of the day. Tom Brady obviously passing Drew Brees, all-time passing yards leader. That's a big thing. Shout out Tom Brady breaking records. And Andy Reid winning 100 games with Philadelphia, and then going into Philadelphia as the Chiefs coach and winning his 100th game with the Chiefs.
No
Big
way.
coaching.
That's big.
That's huge, and how poetic for him to do it in Philly.
Yeah.
So those are some of the kind of record-breaking things I took note of today. It wasn't obviously like last week with the 66-yard field goal, 109-yard touchdown or missed field goal return, but still breaking records.
I'll also throw on for the record-breaking thing. Well, just because I watched the Packers and Steelers game, obviously. Aaron Rodgers passed Dan Marino, I believe, on the all-time touchdown list, and Ben Roethlisberger moved into, well, he joined the 400 touchdown pass club. So both of those guys as well, 2 future Hall of Famers, man. They both had, I mean, that was pretty much Ben's only bright spot on the day. But
another record breaker, AFC North rivalry stuff. 3 seconds left in the Broncos Ravens game. Ravens have had 100 yards rushing. I think it was in 43 straight games, which tied the 1970 Steelers. And they needed 3 yards to go. Drew Lock threw a pick with 3 seconds left, and instead of taking a knee, they ran a quarterback power with Lamar Jackson. He ran for 5 yards instead.
They knew they were doing it.
And I wanted to ask if I could ask John Harbaugh, would you have done that if the Steelers didn't hold that streak? Would you have cared about getting that streak? That record? I think that's
a pretty good question.
I feel like that's just some F the Steelers energy, you know?
No doubt. Jesse, man, as I mentioned to Kevin, man, thank you very much for your time. I hope I have you back here on the show sooner rather than later. A couple more times, maybe even this season. We'll see. But
appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Get me on here, hosting, putting everything together. Looks awesome. Love the ticker at the bottom. Getting some good guests on here, man. Appreciate what you're doing.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate you. And, man, thank you very much. If you are tuning into the Final Drive, man, thank you for tuning in. We will see you Week 5, Final Drive, man, after Bills and the Chiefs. Jesse, thank you very much. Again, man, have a great night, everybody.